Bone-anza.
Thank you. Bone-anza. Thank you.
Bone-anza.
Count it. Bone-anza. Thank you. We're having a bonanza.
Bone-anza.
Thank you. Thank you. Count it. Count it.
Bonanza. Bonanza.
Bonanza. Bonanza.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Schwartz.
I'm Caitlin Hart. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. We are excited to be here.
Yes, very excited. Thankful to be back. We are coming at you from the past. So we just had to skip a week because we were experiencing some technical difficulties. And what had happened there was that I was on my bed working diligently on the podcast.
Hell yeah.
Watching YouTube videos and maybe being a little bit asleep. And I moved my legs around a little bit in the covers, and my computer decided that it was going to take just a whoopsie oopsie doopsie tumble right off my bed. And the screen broke with a large crack right down the middle. And it was literally the day that we had recorded the episode with Kayla, which was last week's episode. Yeah.
Of course. So just know, listener, in the future that we're fine, but the computer did take a journey to Apple and back.
Yes, it went on its own beautiful journey. It just went to the computer hospital for a while, but it's back.
Yeah. And no problem.
Yeah, and we just appreciate your patience with that.
It's in the past. Okay, so it's time now, once again, folks, for a bonanza.
A bonanza in April, and you know what that means?
No.
It's a bonanza full of hoax and pranks and trickery.
Oh, the month of pranks and trickery. April.
April.
Sorry, that's April?
Yeah, I get it. I got you.
April?
Well, this April will be an ape thrill. I'm sorry. This bonanza is going to be all of stories about either bones that are fake or not what they seem to be.
Yeah, I've got quite an assortment of weird stuff in here. I'm gonna have some fun with this.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So
Are you a big prankster in your day-to-day?
Not in my day-to-day. I don't love a mean prank.
No.
Like sometimes those prank shows stress me out. Like, I know that everyone is probably going to be talking about it, but that Eric Andre prank movie, I think, will stress me out. I'm sure it's great, but it looks like it would stress me out too much. But I like a friendly, silly prank.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I lived with Darren Schultz, who's been on the show a couple of times. We lived together, and I would always threaten to him when he would do stuff that I didn't like. Not, big stuff, but just like not pass me the maple syrup or, whatever. I would tell him, Darren, I'm gonna shit in your bed. And at one point I did acquire a fake piece of poop. So when he would piss me off, I would put the fake piece of poop in the bed. I'd be like, Darren, I'm going to shit in your bed. You just go and check. And then from that, it grew into the piece of poop kind of traveling from person to person. It was like a 5-person house. So if you found the poop in your territory, it was then upon you to place the poop for someone else to come upon.
I feel like that was a tradition in a few of the households I lived in with roommates. One time I lived with a group of people where we would pass the rat. I was with Sarah, Emily, and Marika. And Sarah, Emily, and I carried on that tradition of hiding this plastic rat all over the apartment for each other to find. Sarah got the last laugh, actually, when I moved out of the apartment for the last time and was, I was moving into my own place. I found a fucking plastic rat. I can't remember where exactly I found it, but Sarah got me for sure.
That's
And
wonderful.
I was just thinking the other day, a good prank got pulled on me. My coworker Marissa comes up to me and goes, "Check the freezer." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Go check the freezer." And she had got me this frozen pizza that she had told me was good and that I should try from Safeway. And it was very sweet. And how did I reward her? I always leave a bottle of disinfectant at her office at the end of the night. So, because we work at a doctor's office, so we disinfect everything, and she likes to spray down her office. This time, that day, I left the disinfectant sideways on her computer. It's a liquid, like it's a spray,
Oh
a cleaning
no!
spray.
You repaid her for her pizza-based kindness by giving her a fucking heart attack.
No, it was fine. There was no liquid spilled. It was just, I thought, just weird enough to be a good prank.
No, that's very fun. I thought you were gonna say that the leaving the pizza in the freezer was a prank, and I was gonna say that's not a prank, that's a gift.
It's a gifty prank. It's a good prank, the best kind of prank, because pizza is involved. And by the way, I ate that pizza and it was delightful.
Oh fuck yeah. The only prank I think that's been pulled on me that I can think of off the top of my head is, I'm not sure if it was a prank, more or less just like dad antics. When I was like maybe 6 or 7, I was in one of those Halloween stores. It was called Boswell's. I don't think it was a chain, it was just a party store.
Was it like a spirit Halloween?
Yeah, but like a mom and pop spirit Halloween. Like
cool.
Like year round, it was just a party supply store, but they went off on Halloween. Like it was, they did it up extra. And we would always go there to get, costumes and stuff like that. And this year we were just walking around, and my dad thought that it would be really funny to take one of the fake severed arms and, do the dad thing of like put it in your sleeve and like, do the handshake. Sure. That whole thing. He does that. He like touched me in the arm with it. I realized it was fake, screamed my little head off, ran outside, and then refused to go into Halloween stores, maybe until just a few Halloweens ago.
Sure. Yeah. Those stores will get you. They always have a haunting skeleton that'll run after you. Not really, but it'll be motion activated. So you'll feel like it wants you.
Yes. You never know what's down the aisles of those stores. It could just be an aisle full of like sexy maid outfits, but it could also be an aisle full of severed heads. You don't know till you go down there.
God, I bet Halloween 2021 is going to be batshit crazy.
Oh my God, I cannot wait.
I really hope that it's batshit crazy in a good way, like because we're able to just party our little hearts out.
Oh, I hope
together.
So. It has to be 2 Halloweens worth of Halloween.
Yes, last Halloween was stolen, so I'll take you to a spirit and we'll have a good experience, I bet.
Will you hold my hand and with your real hand?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's get into some of these hoaxes and bone pranks.
I'm in.
So the first one I'm going to start off with is a heavy hitter in my opinion. It's the first thing I thought of when I think of bone hoaxes. Of course, a hoax is like something that's, a forgery, something that's not real, something intentionally meant to deceive people. So what I thought of is the Fiji mermaid. And are you familiar with the Fiji mermaid at all?
No, I'm not, but I'm intrigued.
Okay, so I'll send you a picture of it because when you think of mermaids, I tend to think of, and a lot of people tend to think of the Western kind of European portrayal of mermaids, which is like sexy lady on top with, some seashells on the titties.
Or not.
And fish
maybe
bottom.
Just hair.
Or not. Maybe just hair. But I'm going to pop you off a picture of what this mermaid looked like.
Oh, sick. This is not a cute, sexy mermaid. This is a devil fish that needs to go to the hospital.
Of course, you can view this picture on our Instagram, but basically, how would you describe it, Caitlin?
It's like when You know that scene in Harry Potter when Harry's in a dream and he's with Dumbledore in King's Cross and he looks down and he sees Voldemort all mangled and nasty under a bench.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that looks like, but with a tail.
Yeah, pretty good description. So the Fiji mermaid, Fiji is sometimes spelled like the place and sometimes spelled Feejee versus Fiji. It is composed of the torso of a juvenile monkey sewn to the back half of a fish.
Oh, yuck.
And it was a common feature of sideshows throughout the 19th century and was often marketed as a mermaid.
So this is a drawing of one, but they had quote unquote real ones that people could go see.
Absolutely. Check your messages.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. No. No, that little guy is nasty.
So I sent Caitlin a picture. There are, the specific Fiji mermaid we're going to be talking about today might not still be in existence, but you can see a lot of pictures of imitations, replicas, and just other mermaid hoaxes online, plus on our Instagram. My sources for this were an article from Live Science, Ancient Origins, and of course, Wikipedia. So the Fiji mermaid was a hoax that was promoted by P.T. Barnum during the 1840s, and it was the most famous fake mermaid during the 19th century. And like I said, there were a couple of other fake mermaids floating around at this time. Like we kind of discussed, these mermaids were unlike the depictions in folklore and popular culture. They were not this, I wrote, these were not the sexy fish ladies of yore.
No, these aren't your sexy ants mermaids. I don't know.
This isn't your vodka ants mermaids, okay?
Right.
In fact, they were most often described as hideous, which seemed mean, but when you look at the picture,
it looks bad. They didn't do either the fish or the monkey justice, to be quite honest.
They did them both dirty. So P.T. Barnum has a great description of his Fiji mermaid. He wrote in his autobiography that it was, quote, an ugly, dried up, black-looking, diminutive specimen about 3 feet long. Its mouth was open, its tail turned over, and its arms thrown up, giving it the appearance of having died in great agony.
Oh, great.
So so why wouldn't you want to display that in your museum?
I want one in my current apartment.
I'll find you one. So the original Fiji mermaid was displayed in 1842 by P.T. Barnum. Barnum was an American showman and businessman, and it was displayed in Barnum's American Museum in New York. This curiosity attracted many visitors to the museum, and I will add that many of P.T. Barnum's exhibits and attractions were hoaxes. That's something that he became very famous for, is tricking people. So the story of the Fiji mermaid really starts in July of 1842 when it arrives in New York with an Englishman going by the name of Dr. J. Griffin, who was a supposed member of the British Lyceum of Natural History. Spoiler alert, he was actually named Levi Lyman and was a friend of P.T. Barnum's, and he was not a doctor at all.
No. Classic.
He claimed that this mermaid that he had was caught near the Fiji Islands in the South Pacific. And when he arrived, the press got wind of this strange, mysterious specimen. And immediately reporters were at his hotel knocking on his door being like, we want to see the mermaid. We want to see the mermaid. And he was like, fine, you can have a peek at the mermaid. So he lets them have a little peek at the mermaid, and they, squirrels it back into his hotel room, shuts the door, and they all leave disappointed. So shortly after this, P.T. Barnum, who had asked Griffin about displaying the mermaid, and Griffin was like not really into it, P.T. Barnum went to several major newspapers in New York and explained that he was trying to convince Griffin to display the mermaid in his museum. But like we said, Griffin was reluctant. But P.T. Barnum's point was that he just so happened to have already prepared an ad for the mermaid at his museum. And the ad was like a woodblock print of a sexy, hot mermaid lady, like in the traditional kind of folkloric sense.
Oh, sure, that's going to bring in some crowds of people not expecting a monkey.
Yeah, the old titties and tail. Everybody loves it. So he said that obviously he has no use for this ad now. So he just gave it to the newspapers and they could do whatever they wanted with it.
Okay.
But what do newspapers do?
Print.
They print things. And so that's what they did. And also Barnum is said to have maybe handed out like, I don't know, like a small 10,000 pamphlets about it.
Oh, casual. Nothing
Very
big.
casual of it. All of those pamphlets, of course, bearing the depiction of the sexy mermaid. Soon after this publicity stunt, everyone in New York is abuzz about the mermaid. They want to see the mermaid. So Griffin's like, fucking fine. I will display this mermaid for a week-long expedition or a week-long exhibition at a concert hall on Broadway, and that's it. Then me and my mermaid are out. So no surprise, this exhibition is an enormous hit. People are packing into this theater constantly to see this mermaid, even though it's not what they expected. It's still fascinating, right? And you're seeing it from so far away, you can't really examine it, you know? So you're like, what the fuck is that thing? So on the back of this success of this first showing of the mermaid, Griffin and Barnum strike up a deal that they would display the mermaid in Barnum's American Museum. So Barnum got his way in the end. But in addition to this, Griffin would be there to give talks on the mermaid. I'm not sure what he was telling people.
No, just bullshit. just he could make it up. It didn't matter.
Yeah. And like I said, when people came to see it, they, instead of seeing the hot, sexy mermaid, they saw the preserved body of a juvenile monkey sewn to the back of a fish. And of course, P.T. Barnum didn't create the Fiji mermaid. He just kind of exhibited it. And if we try to trace back where it might have come from, people think that it was probably made in Japan in like the early 1800s. Some people say that it was made by a fisherman as a joke, which is kind of funny to think of a Japanese fisherman being like, I'm gonna give my buddy a real scare. I'm gonna sew this monkey to this fish. I'm gonna put it in the net and we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I guess if you're bored, what else is there to do?
Yeah, that's true. Alex Bose, though, of the Museum of Hoaxes, says that it could also possibly have been used for religious practices in Japanese and Eastern Indian villages. So it might be a more, sacred artifact than people are treating it. So that's kind of interesting to think about how it, its use was kind of mutated by Western culture. But it's thought probably that in Japan in the early 1800s, it was probably traded or bought by a Dutch merchant because, fun fact, at this time, the Dutch were the only Westerners who were permitted to trade with Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. And so after 1853, which is when more of the Western world was allowed to trade with Japan, more and more of these quote unquote mermaids started showing up in different places in Western culture. So that's really interesting. From the Dutch sailors, it went to this sea captain by the name of Samuel Barrett 80s in 1822, and 80s had paid a large amount of money for the mermaid, but he was not able to make any money exhibiting it himself. So following his death, the mermaid was given to his son, who then sold it to Moses Kimball, who was actually the owner of the mermaid, and Barnum had leased it from him.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a whole crazy trail behind this mermaid.
This monkey mermaid.
This monkey mermaid. So following that month-long display in Barnum's museum, the Fiji mermaid went on a tour through like some of the southern states. And then in 1859, the Fiji mermaid went to London. Yeah. And then came back, and it was put back into the Kimball Boston Museum, which is where it was last like officially known to be. And there are a few theories about what might have actually happened to it. Some people think that the Fiji mermaid was destroyed in a fire that burned down Barnum's museum in 1865, but records show that the Fiji mermaid was actually at the Kimball Museum when that happened. So, but another theory of what happened to it is that it might have burned down inside the Kimball Museum in the 1880s.
Oh my God. So either way, it's toast.
Either way, it's toast, but it leaves behind kind of this legacy of all these copycat mermaids all over the world, because it's kind of the first one that rose to prominence in kind of Western culture. So that idea that some people have, if you mention the Fiji mermaid to someone, or if you say like, you know, what's a quote, if you Google quote unquote real mermaid, you get these pictures of this Fiji mermaid. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Mermaids have bones too, you know?
They do. And so do monkeys and fish. I just feel bad for the poor monkey and the poor fish who did not get to rest in peace, and in fact became a mythical creature, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. That picture you sent is horrifying, and I encourage everyone to go look at it and tell us how nasty you think it is.
Yeah, would you go see the Fiji mermaid if you had the chance to?
If I was a bored socialite with nothing to do in the 1800s.
Yeah, I roll up in my carriage to your house and I say, Katelyn, would you care to go see the most wondrous curiosity with me? It's a mermaid.
Yes, I'll hop right in. Let me grab my petticoat.
Get your
Here's
butler.
One for you too.
Oh, thank you. I forgot mine because I am an indecent woman.
And scene.
Do you have a hoaxy bit of bone for us?
I'll tell you about it. This is a little story about the Cardiff Giant. I had never heard of this before. My source for this was an article from history.com. It's called The Cardiff Giant Fools the Nation 145 years ago. And it's by a guy named Evan Andrews.
Andrews.
Thank you, sir, for doing my work for me. No, not doing my work for me, just like writing an article that's helpful.
And for being a bastion of British excellence.
Please. So this is all going to go down in 1867, or it's going to start there. It's not going to end in 1867. I'm going to introduce you to George Hull, who is a cigar maker by trade. He is an atheist. He is a skeptic, and he's on a business trip to Iowa, apparently. And he starts some shit with a revivalist preacher.
Ooh, you quote, never want to do that.
Quote, Hull later claimed he was flabbergasted by the preacher's literalist reading of the Bible, in particularly a passage from the book of Genesis that states there were giants in the earth those days. End quote. So George Hull is like, I'm an atheist. And I guess he thinks that by making a stone giant and then trying to make it look like a petrified man. This scam would like, what would it do? Like dismantle the church from the top down or something, or like it would have this blow that preacher could never recover from, I guess, if this giant is discovered.
Yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from, but on the other side, aren't you just kind of putting fuel on their fire? Like, if tell the story.
Well, I see your point though, because if he's criticizing this preacher's use of the term or the passage that there were giants in the earth, like if you put a giant in the earth, yeah,
you're proving him right.
That would legitimize it, but I don't know exactly. Let's just say he didn't make a lot of sense, okay?
He was a man with a plan, and he had a certain attitude.
Yeah. It actually it took him 2 years, and he spent about $3,000 to make this motherfucking giant come to life.
How mad was he? So mad. To stay that mad for 2 years and $3,000 worth of angry and I want to fuck you over?
Pretty much. I sent you a picture of it.
All right, let's check this out. God damn it, my fucking phone. Oh, whoa. He's fucking huge.
Yeah, wow. It's a stone giant.
That's insane. Listeners, please go look at this picture if you're not like driving or operating heavy machinery, because you can see the giant is being like excavated in the middle, and you can see all these dudes standing around him, and the guys look puny compared to the stone giant.
Yes. So George Hull was used as a model for the sculptors who spent the summer of 1868 turning gypsum into this sculpted just masterpiece.
What a wild summer.
Yeah, the summer of art.
Summer gypsum, baby. Yeah.
Okay, quote, the statue took the form of a naked man lying on his back with his right arm grasping at his stomach, one leg crossed over the other, and a face with a mysterious half smile.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Call on me.
Yes, Sophie, please.
Did they give him a stone Bepis?
Well, let's look.
Let's do some investigating.
It doesn't look like it. To me, I don't see any kind of phallus.
I also don't see a Bepis. I think they put the hand, listener, if you go look at the picture, they put the hand right over the Bepis. That's intentional.
Well, I guess it could be. It's very possible, but maybe that's why he's like looking all mysteriously happy.
Yeah.
And all these guys have their hands over their hearts looking at us.
They're like, he died as he lived, jerking it.
To me, I mean, this picture's kind of grainy, but I don't see a mysterious smile. I see just like disappointment.
I agree with that. And it might be because they did not carve him a Bepis.
Possibly. So the sculptors also put sulfuric acid on this gypsum sculpture. I guess it would gave the stone kind of a aged look. Mm-hmm. George Hull put pins into the body, I guess, to replicate like pores on the skin.
Okay.
All in all, when we're done, 2 years later, $3,000 later, was it 3,000? Yeah. I paused because it also apparently weighed 3,000 pounds. It cost $1 a pound to make.
Damn. That's not cheap.
It was more than 10 feet tall.
Damn.
So now he's got this giant. What the fuck's he gonna do? He decides to go to Cardiff, New York, where his distant relative, William Newell, lives. William Newell goes by another name, which I will call him from here on out. His nickname is Stub.
Tell me about it, Stub.
Yes. So Stub, George Hull, I guess, trusts Stub enough to let him in on the secret. So he ships the stone giant to Stubbs' property in an iron sealed box. And then in November 1868, one night, like in the dead of night, they bury the stone giant underneath Stubbs' barn, or like not under it, but like near it. And they try to get the roots over it and like make it look like it's been there for a long ass time.
Yeah, yeah.
and then they cover it up and they wait. They play the long game on this one. George Hull goes home. He lives in Binghamton, I guess, nearby. He's still a cigar maker by trade, so he's busy doing cigar shit.
He's doing that too this whole time.
1 year later, he writes a letter to Stubb. Stubb, apparently on October 16th, 1869, Stubb gets the plan in action. So their plan is to get some workers to, quote unquote, dig a well near the barn. And they're going to dig this well and stumble upon this giant. And it's going to be a great big fucking discovery. Apparently people like left work, like grabbed their kids and just like ran over when they heard that this was happening.
Wait, so how many people knew about this?
A lot, apparently. A fucking lot.
Guys, they're doing it. It's been a year. No, come on, I'm serious. They're digging up the stone guy they put in Johnny's barn.
It's true. So these crowds of people are coming. So Stubb puts a tent over the giant and charges 50 cents for admission. And apparently 2,500 people came in the first week.
Damn, that's pretty good.
So I guess there were fossil deposits in Cardiff, New York beforehand. So a lot of people thought that this was, quote, an ancient man that had been petrified by the waters of a nearby swamp. So remember, George Hull wanted people to think it was some kind of being that was petrified or whatever. Yeah. So I guess some people believed that.
Yeah, him and his acid and his pins.
Yep. Of course, capitalism gets involved, and Stubbs was offered $30,000 for a 3/4 stake in the like business of letting people look at this giant. Basically, when they start making a lot of money, they sell the giant, right? They sell stake in the giant and they get rich. But it doesn't go very well for them. Eventually, it's reported that the locals remember George Hull transporting a huge crate to Cardiff 1 year ago. They also learned that after Stubbs sold the giant, he transferred a lot of money to George Hull.
Weird.
Wonder why that happened. I'm sorry. So in the meantime, this giant is on display. It's traveling around, and then more people are seeing it, so the whole thing unravels. A mining engineer apparently noticed that gypsum would have deteriorated more quickly in the soil in Stubbs' farm. And then there was a Yale paleontologist named, I'm going to butcher this, Othniel Charles Marsh, who apparently said that the giant was, quote, a very recent origin and a most decided humbug.
A humbug of a bone.
All right, you're going to like who shows up next in the story. Apparently, 1 day later, who should show up but our favorite boy, P.T. Barnum.
My boy, he's there.
He's back. He's here. He wants to buy the giant. The owners, I guess, the owners turn him down, but he doesn't give a fuck because he just commissions a sculptor to build an exact replica, and he starts displaying it at his museum as the real thing.
This is what he would fucking do,
it's
though.
Crazy. Yep.
If he couldn't get it himself, he was like, I will make it because I will have all of the things. I do not care.
You didn't need to verify anything at this time. Like, people would kind of take it at face value. So
no, it was the mid to late 1800s.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no verifying it other than I love
No.
those people who were like, hey, didn't we see him driving a big crate the size of
Yeah.
that guy?
Yeah.
Don't you remember that, Doris?
Wasn't that enormous crate that took up the whole road going into Stubbs Farm a year ago? I love Stubbs.
He's the hero
Apparently,
of this.
yeah. So apparently they forged just a fuck ton of other giants. And by the end of the year, and the year I believe is 1869, there are at least 6 Cardiff giants being exhibited around the country.
Oh my God.
And so people do keep coming for a little while, but by about 1880, nobody's coming anymore. So it's in storage in it's in storage in Massachusetts. It passes around the original one, and then eventually it ends up at the Farmers Museum in Cooperstown, New York. No idea where it is now. So overall, George Hull made off with about $20,000 after this scheme. So not terrible.
Oh.
But he tried it again in 1877.
Oh my God, guy.
He built a 7-foot tall giant with a tail, and he tried to bury it in Colorado. But apparently, this article really just glazes over it. I don't think it even fooled hardly anybody. He actually lost money on this one and then died in obscurity in 1902. I
don't
know
mean
what
to
happened.
laugh. Yeah.
No, I know, but I don't know what happened to Stubbs, but hopefully he kept the farm at least.
I hope so. That was great. I love that story.
Yeah, I like the Cardiff Giant. I like P.T. Barnum showing up where all these hoaxes are in the mid 1800s.
That's the thing. I was wondering if he was going to show his face more than one time in this episode.
Yeah. This time we were smart. We checked in with each other just very briefly about what we were talking about so we wouldn't have a double bonanza surprise.
As much as we all love a double bonanza surprise,
we decided it might just be time to just do the briefest of check-ins ahead of time.
Do the smallest amount of groundwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because P.T. Barnum, so much of what was in his museum was either fake or an act or, just a straight up lie.
It was the greatest show.
It was the greatest show. Yeah, we've mentioned the movie The Greatest Showman on this podcast before. I recommend watching it, but just knowing that it's nothing like history. And that Zendaya got shafted should have had more to do in that movie. Anyway,
moving on. What you got for me, Soph?
Okay, I have a question for you. How do you feel about mannequins?
I don't like to see one in the dark.
Do they creep you out?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So I'm going to be talking about La Pascualita, who is a mannequin in Chihuahua, Mexico, who is believed to be not a mannequin, but a preserved corpse.
No.
Check out the picture that I sent you.
I'm creeped out. Oh my God. Why do they think this is a corpse? Why is her neck so long?
All questions we all have.
I have to turn this off.
Yeah, don't look at her too hard. So my sources for this were an article from All Things Interesting, Atlas Obscura, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and a YouTube video from our favorite mortician, Caitlin Doty. So La Pascualita is, not your average mannequin. As I showed you, she has a pretty haunting face and very realistic looking features. It is a local rumor that she is not a dummy, but the extremely well-preserved corpse of the owner's daughter who died from a black widow bite the night of her wedding.
Ooh.
Yeah. So for our listeners, what she looks like is she's a Caucasian mannequin with brown hair, and she's wearing like a kind of almost 80s style wedding dress. and she's displayed in the storefront of the La Popular store window, and she's been displayed there for 90 years.
Let me just also say she's got a beautiful tiara on and the just enormous eyelashes.
Yeah, her eyelashes are nuts by like 2021 Instagram standards. They're popping.
Yes.
One might say. So she first made her appearance in the store window on March 25th, 1930. And she was wearing a gown from the spring summer collection, which I thought was interesting. I'm a fashion person, so I like to see that. Immediately, locals were struck by how realistic she looked. They were also really concerned about her uncanny resemblance to the owner, Pascuala Espares, or rather, she looked a lot like his recently deceased daughter.
Ooh.
So all of these rumors begin flying around the mannequin, and this story kind of starts to form about her. And this is the story. So according to legend, the daughter of the owner was preparing to be married when she was bitten by a black widow, and she succumbed to its poison the night before her wedding. And not long after that, her father, so distraught with grief, not being able to take the fact that his daughter had died, embalms her and puts her in the wedding dress that she was supposed to be married in, and puts her in this window for all to see.
Oh my God.
Which gives me the absolute creeps.
Yeah, 100%. That's no good.
Yeah. And there are a couple different versions of the story. In one version, she's bitten by a scorpion. In another version, she actually, unfortunately, commits suicide by jumping off a cliff because her mother did not approve of her husband-to-be.
Oh, God.
Which is sad, which is horrible.
I don't believe that one, though, because how would she look so good?
Exactly. If you take a tumble off a cliff, you do not look that pristine.
No.
So on closer inspection, La Pascualita, which is kind of Spanish for like Pascuala was the name of the owner. So it's like little Pascuala. So if you look at her hands, she has very realistic looking fingernails. You can even kind of see veins in her hands, like varicose veins, but she doesn't look like other preserved corpses. If you take a look at like Lenin or Mao, you can see that there's quite a difference between those embalmed faces and her like almost wooden-esque kind of face and expression. There are a lot of fun rumors about her. My favorite is that there was a French magician who would come at night to bring her to life. And they would go out on the town and they would go dancing and drinking and have a wonderful time. And then he would return her to the window and freeze her back into her frozen spell.
Oh, yeah. A Toy Story scenario.
Yes, Toy Story, but it's with a lady corpse.
Yeah.
Other rumors are that her eyes will follow you around the shop as you look for the dress of your choice.
No.
Many people have reported looking at her and then looking away and seeing that she's in a slightly different position than when they saw her before.
Ugh,
I know.
Get out of here.
One shop worker named Sonia Burciaga, who changes the dummy's clothes, says, quote, "Every time I go near Pascualita, my hands break into a sweat. Her hands are very realistic, and she even has varicose veins on her legs. I believe she is a real person."
Okay.
So shivers. So this mannequin has never gone under any sort of scientific test. You know, no one's ever tried to autopsy it or CAT scan it or anything like that. But if you watch Caitlin Doty's video, she's a mortician. She has a couple really great points about why La Pascualita is probably not a corpse. First of all, she points out the heat. This is in Chihuahua, Mexico, so it's hot, and she's in a glass-fronted window, which is extra hot. So even the best embalming techniques, modern embalming techniques, still would not help a body from decomposing in those circumstances. Like if you, again, going back to like Lenin and Mao, those, I know for Lenin in particular, the continual re-embalming, and they take him apart and they put him back together. There's a whole team and research center just around ensuring that this guy looks as good as he can. And millions of dollars are spent on preserving this corpse. And that guy still has mold on him sometimes.
Whoa.
La Pascualita is pristine.
Yeah. What does she have that Lennon doesn't have?
I don't know. Amazing eyelashes. Some people say that she might be taxidermied, which is just a horrific thing. I'm sorry I had to say that out loud, but she is probably not, because taxidermy doesn't really work very well on people, because for animals, when you taxidermy them, the stitches and the seams and stuff like that can be hidden by fur or feathers or really long hair. And La Pascualita, even if all of her seams and stitches were under her dress, it still wouldn't work. You'd see them on the wrists, you'd see the way it was stretched. The skin would look like skin. And even though it does on the mannequin, like,
yeah, it's probably not a dead body, but it's crazy that people have thought it is for a really long time.
For like 90 years. We're coming on almost 100 years of this. But she has just become a local symbol. And people sometimes, they bring her little stuff. They come to visit her. So, real corpse or not, she's an important person.
That is interesting. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it'll be up on the Instagram, but there's a picture where, and it's what I sent to Caitlin, of a picture of the owner's daughter and a picture of the mannequin. And there is definitely a certain resemblance.
Yeah, it's not that crazy to see a resemblance and like how that rumor maybe got started. But yeah, it's crazy. It's endured.
Yeah. But I just feel so bad for the owner, because his daughter just died, and now everyone wants to accuse him of being like a taxidermy creep.
We don't like that.
We don't love that. But having worked, but let me just say, I used to work in a wedding dress store. And it would have made things a lot more interesting if there was a corpse mannequin.
Maybe you'd still be there.
Maybe.
I'm going to pop you off a picture for my next one, but I want you to know it's not phallic. As much as it looks like it is, this is not a phallic picture.
Okay, this is not a phallic picture. Oh, Caitlin. No, Caitlin. Thank you for telling me this is not a phallic picture. So what this picture is of, it looks like a little mole rat, maybe?
Nice one. All right. This one's going to be short and sweet, this one. One source only, and it is a blog called Animal a Day.
Okay.
This was posted on April Fool's Day 2012.
Nice.
So let me take you back to April Fool's Day 1984. A newspaper called the Orlando Sentinel. Is that how you say it?
Sentinel?
Sentinel? Yeah, Orlando Sentinel. God, I can't see. Can't read, can't see.
Put your damn glasses on.
No. So this paper in Orlando ran a story about the Tasmanian mock walrus. Quote, a 4-inch long creature that was the absolute perfect pet. It looked like a tiny walrus. It could be litter box trained, it purrs like a cat, and could even keep your house cockroach free.
Oh my God.
And allegedly the story contained a photo, which is the one that I sent you.
Which looks like a shriveled peen.
It's unfortunately what it looks like. And apparently these little Tasmanian mock walruses were being bred in the United States for the first time by this wonderful couple down in Florida.
Of course it's fucking Florida.
Well, yeah, it's the Orlando Sentinel.
I didn't even put that together.
And then the paper reported that the pest control companies kept harassing the couple that was breeding these mock walruses because they were afraid they were going to lose business because these things were so good at catching cockroaches.
Oh my God. So they're out there intimidating this couple with their like baseball bat with the nails in it, being like, you better not be breeding those pest control walrus dick animals.
Turns out you were 100% right. Nicely done. It was a naked mole rat.
Rufus.
Yeah, Rufus from Kim Possible. It was an April Fool's Day joke. It was a prank that the paper played on the town of Orlando. But apparently this story caused a bunch of phone calls and letters to the newspaper.
Oh no.
And the pet stores in I'm sorry, I can't get through this story without laughing.
No, go for it.
People were calling the paper, writing the paper. They were calling pet stores like,
oh my God,
where the fuck can I get a Tasmanian mock walrus?
Oh no. They started something.
Yeah, everybody was like, where can I get this tiny walrus that's going to eat all my cockroaches and shit in a box?
They sold it too well. Too well.
It was too good to be true.
Yeah. Oh, boo.
So that's the Tasmanian mock walrus.
I love that.
It was an amazing April Fool's prank by probably somebody very funny at this Orlando newspaper.
I love that. That's great.
And that's it. That's a short one.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Well, we'll go to my last Bone-anza.
Okay.
Here we go. Of course, I'll start you off with a picture.
We're picture heavy in this episode. I like it.
Well, I think the hoaxes kind of
yeah.
They almost require the pictures, because stuff like with La Pascualita and with the little mock walruses, I feel like it's important to have a look at what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I've got it. So it looks like a potato with some gold leaf on it.
This is the Persian princess.
My mistake. I'm so sorry, Your Highness.
It's okay. She looks a little like a potato. If you didn't know that this was a mummy.
No, I did not.
So sources for this one, real quick, are archive.archaeology.org, Wikipedia, Atlas Obscura, scienciamag.org, and that's the last one.
Nice.
So this is a hoax. I'll just say this is a hoax with a bit of a darker turn to it. So this is a mummy, and it was found on October 19th in 2000.
Oh, wow.
Fairly
happy
recently.
Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
The Halloween of the millennia. That's, wow. Interesting. Okay, continue.
I was going to say, I think I might have a picture from that year of Halloween up on my wall where I'm a spider witch and my brother is a dementor. So Pakistani authorities were alerted to a videotape that was recorded by Ali Akbar, in which he claimed to have a mummy for sale. When questioned by the police, Akbar told them where the mummy was. It was at the house of a tribal leader near the border of Afghanistan. Akbar said he received the mummy from an Iranian named Sharif Shah Barki, who said that he had found it after an earthquake near Quetta. So the mummy had been put up for sale on the black antiquities market for about 600 million rupees, which was equivalent to $11 million at the time. So not a cheap mummy.
No.
not a bargain mummy. So in a press conference on October 26th, Pakistani archaeologist Ahmad Hassan Dani of the university in Islamabad announced that the mummy what seemed to be a princess dated circa 600 BC. So very interesting. The mummy was wrapped in the ancient Egyptian style and rested in a gilded wooden coffin with cuneiform carvings inside a stone sarcophagus. The mummy was atop a layer of wax and honey and was covered by a stone slab and had a golden crown on its brow. There was an inscription on the golden chest plate. You know how you were saying that the baked potato looked like it had gold on it? It does.
Yeah. Okay.
On the gold chest plate, there was an inscription saying that she was the daughter of King Xerxes the First of Persia and a member of the Achaemenid dynasty. And this was really important because this meant that the body was potentially the mummified body of a Persian princess that was 2,600 years old. This is interesting because the Persian culture was not known for making mummies. And this would have been this would have been like the first member of like the Persian royal family to be found in this way.
Oh, so that would have been a big deal.
Yes, it would have been a very big deal. So it generated a lot of international attention because, like I said, mummies of this kind were not usually found in Iran. At one point, the mummy actually caused diplomatic tensions between Iran and Pakistan because both countries claimed ownership of the remains. Oops, indeed. But the government of Pakistan decided that they were going to form an investigation committee that consisted of archaeologists, archaeological chemists, and preservation experts to see what was up with this mummy. And no one else was going to be allowed to work on the mummy except for these people, which I think is a good idea because, you know, when you're dealing with these remains that like people were already raising an eyebrow at these remains when they came up, you know, because they come up on the black market. So the team starts its investigation. They do analysis on the cuneiform text on the breastplate. They do x-rays and CT scans of the body, technical analysis of the wood sarcophagus and coffin, and radiocarbon dating on the objects that were laid around the mummy inside of her sarcophagus. As we've kind of talked about a little bit, grave goods can tell a lot about remains. So it's always important to look at the grave goods.
If we ever crack open an ancient tomb, let's look at those grave goods together.
Yes. Over a glass of wine, why not?
Oh, yeah.
Scholars immediately grew suspicious when they were checking out that cuneiform writing because an expert took a look at it and said that it was written by someone who was, quote, not well familiar with Iranian script.
Oh, no.
Which would not be consistent with who would have, you know, who would have been of noble enough status or important enough to have carved this thing would have been familiar. So that was like the first red flag. Then we go to the CT scans and they revealed that the mummy belongs to an adult woman who was about 4 feet 7 inches tall and about 21 years old when she died. The scans also showed that her internal organs had been removed and her abdominal cavity had been filled with a powdery substance. They also did an autopsy on her, and that exposed that the cause of death was a broken neck caused by blunt force trauma to the cervical vertebrae, but forensic pathologists couldn't determine if the woman's neck had been broken deliberately. So we're not sure if she was killed or died through accidental means. Chemical analysis of her body and hair had been bleached, and her abdomen had been filled with modern drying agents. And analysis of the mummy said that it could have only been created maybe about 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah. And the final result of the carbon dating on the bone and tissue revealed that the remains belonged to a woman who had died in 1996.
What the fuck? What did they think they were accomplishing by making this?
Well, it's interesting, possibly the motivations for making this. So they find that also the mummy is Iranian in origin. So the Iranian government would like the mummy back.
Mm-hmm.
And Pakistan is happy to do that. So investigators believe that the perpetrators of this fraud probably obtained a fresh corpse from a grave that was looted in an area between Pakistan and Iran. And the forgers removed the corpse's internal organs and covered the body with chemicals to dry the body out for months. And this was an intricate forgery that took months to execute and probably involved a scholar, along with someone who was familiar with anatomy. The evidence of the broken neck caused Pakistani police to open up a murder investigation for which they reinterrogated those middlemen who were selling the mummy on the black market. But unfortunately, there haven't been any developments in that case thus far. It remains cold. So the ET Foundation took custody of the body on August 5th, 2005, and announced that it was to be interred with a proper burial. However, police and other government officials never responded to numerous requests. It was not until 2008 that the foundation was finally able to carry out a proper burial for her. So she has been interned with proper burial rites, and we're not sure how she died
or who she is,
or
right?
who she is. No, we have no idea. So
or why anybody did this.
No, I mean, here I have a couple theories, and I want to know what you think.
Okay.
So theory number one is that they wanted to make a mummy to sell in the black market and make $11 million.
Right, that's a pretty strong motive.
The other one is that she was killed and then they decided to make a mummy and sell it on the black market for $11 million.
So like to get rid of her body, maybe? Like it was a win-win?
Yes. Like they killed her and they were like, what if we turned her into a mummy and sold her? Or
shit.
They grave robbed someone who had been murdered, which is still not great.
Oh my God. There's so many possibilities with this one. I hate that it's unsolved.
I know, me too, but
fuck. Craziness.
Nuts, absolutely nuts. But
it wasn't a baked potato. It was so much worse than that.
No, it was possibly a murdered human.
Yeah. Ugh. I hate that they also just don't. Yeah. Well, I hate that they don't know.
Me too. But it's interesting how a person can live their life as a modern person and end their life as a Persian princess mummy.
Yeah. Well, that's a downer.
That's this podcast, bitch.
Well, contrary to how things normally go on this podcast, I have something super light to end on.
Yay, save us.
All right. I'm not going to tell you the title of my source because it gives it away. But my source was an article from this news outlet called Quartz, and it's by Rosa Leister. Quartz, like the stone.
Oh, warts. I thought you were saying courts, like, baby, I'm going to take you to court.
Oh, no, sorry. For Quartz. Quartz. Okay, here we go. This one, I'm going to laugh through this whole one too. Okay, it's 1917. We are in Cottingley, England.
Cheerio.
Yes. And we are down at a stream at the bottom of a garden.
Ooh.
And here's where we find Elsie Wright, age 16, and Frances Griffiths, age 10. And they're taking pictures.
Oh, in 1917? Okay.
And these pictures are with fairies. I'm going to send you a picture of the picture.
Oh, cool. This bitch looks very zoned out. She's on a vibe.
She's killing it. She's killing it. So they took these pictures with paper cutout fairies that they had copied from a children's book. and they took turns posing with their little fairies. Elsie's father had a dark room where they developed the pictures, and then they presented them to their families and said, "Look, guys, fairies are real."
And what did their family say?
So Elsie's father was very practical. He did not believe them, but Elsie's mother did. And 2 years later, she takes the pictures to the Theosophical Society, which is, quote, a group dedicated to exploring unexplained phenomena and forming the nucleus of a universal brotherhood of humanity.
Okay.
So you see in the picture, it looks pretty fake, right? It
It
doesn't,
fake.
I think, especially with our modern lens, we know a child would know, yeah, that's fake. This Theosophical Society was like, no, bitch, this is not fake.
Oh no. Oh no.
So we're at about 1919. So we're about 1919, and Edward Gardner, who was a writer and leading member of the society, saw these pictures and was like, yes. He thought that this was proof that, quote, the next cycle of evolution was underway.
Oh, Edward. Oh, Edward.
He was convinced that fairies were real and that these pictures were how he was going to prove it. He apparently gave lectures, he made copies of them, and he
Edward,
went to all these meetings. He went to these meetings and just spread this shit all around.
Edward, stop. Edward, no.
So, of course, the press coverage was, quote, skeptical.
Yeah.
But around the time of World War I, spiritualism and mysticism was very popular in the British, what am I trying to say?
Consciousness.
Yes, perfect. So, like, a lot of people were a little more willing, I guess, to believe that maybe fairies could exist. They were already kind of thinking that there was a veil between the worlds that maybe sometimes we could see through. So, yeah. So, a lot of people were into it, including someone you might have heard of, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
This guy, he loved ghosts and the supernatural. He was a huge spiritualism guy.
Yep, he loved it. So he took these photographs as proof that communication could exist between fairies and people, like the different worlds could communicate with each other.
We can talk to fairies, guys.
This is proof of everything. We can talk to fairies.
Have you read my latest mystery novel?
So Arthur Conan Doyle apparently published an article about these pictures in the Strand magazine, and he sent Edward Garner, who's the guy with the Theosophical Society, to go visit the girls. And they ended up giving out more pictures. And these pictures were called, quote, Francis and the Leaping Fairy, Fairy offering posy of harebells to Elsie, and Fairies and their sunbath.
Fairies and their sunbath.
Again, apparently these pictures just looked like absolute horseshit. Not that they were bad pictures, but obviously not real.
Yeah.
But everybody fell for it again. Gardner apparently brought in a psychic who said that the entire place where the girls lived was just absolutely full of fairies everywhere. So eventually this movement, the spiritualistic movement, just kind of dies out, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was looking more and more unhinged.
Yeah.
Girls stopped taking pictures and everybody just kind of moved on. But eventually, in 1983, the girls are approached to do a piece about the whole thing. And apparently they admitted that the photographs were fake, but they've maintained until they died that they really had seen fairies.
Aww.
But that the pictures were fake.
The pictures are fake, but the fairies are real.
The fairies are real.
Okay, ladies.
So
I love that.
Fairies have bones too. So
I
thought
we'll
we could end on some magic fairy bones.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there could be a whole nother bonanza on like people trying to prove the existence of like mythical creatures.
Oh, definitely.
'Cause there's a lot of
100%.
stuff on that. Our boy P.T. Barnum will show up again.
I feel like this is not the last of P.T. Barnum on this podcast.
Oh no, I know off the top of my head there's one more P.T. Barnum story I definitely want to tell on this podcast, but I won't bring it here because that I believe was the last Bone-anza.
Yes, that was our episode.
Yes, but if you're craving more, we have a lovely backlog for you to go and listen to, and we have a wonderful website you can go check out where you can actually send us your suggestions for bone stories or bone topics. What's that website again, Caitlin?
That would be anythingbonespodcast.squarespace.com.
Yeah.
And you can find just a link to that very website in the show notes. So, you know, if found this episode, you can find our website. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I don't know why I was so aggressive about it.
Yeah,
We're just nearing the end and I'm trying to start a fight.
Yeah, who are you trying to fight?
I don't know. Nobody. I'm in a good mood. Things are going fine. God.
Yeah, are you okay?
Yes. I just got excited, I think.
It's all that white hot bonanza energy.
Yeah, I love a bonanza. It always energizes me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on this bonanza with us.
We'll see you next week with a brand new episode.
Yeah. All I have to say is bon voyage.
Oh, I'll say it too. Bon voyage.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Oh, Caitlin.